All right, guys, we're going to take a quick look as to the use of leverage and how misunderstood leverage really is for newer traders or even more advanced traders. There seems to be a very big misconception out there that the higher the leverage, the more money you're going to make, which in a way, it's very easy to understand that or think that way rather, especially at being a newer trader and all. But the thing is with leverage, the higher the leverage doesn't necessarily mean you're making more money. Surely the overall percent gain on that one particular trade will show a larger balance because you're using more leverage, meaning that it will show a larger percent gain. Like if you took a screenshot on Discord, for example, you may see others with 1,000% gain on their trade, but it also says they're using max leverage, such as 100x leverage or 75 times leverage. The thing is with that doesn't necessarily mean they're making more money than your trade where it shows you're making 8% on a 2 times leverage trade. So you can't really look at leverage that way, right? That's a big flaw. You don't want to look at leverage that way at all. Leverage is so that you can split your funds up and you don't have to put as much money on a trade. You don't have to put as much money on an exchange to open a trade. We're going to take a look at an example here. Okay, it's a very simple example. I got 3 of the exact same positions. We're going to disprove the entire leverage theory out there, right? The big leverage myth, we can call it. So these are 3 identical trades, same entry, same stop loss. You can see on the side here on the right, these are the entry points and these are the stop loss points. So trader A is using 75 times leverage. Trader B is using 25 times leverage. Trader C, 5 times leverage. So my question to you is, if these traders all have a $10,000 account balance, they're all risking 1% per trade. Okay, these guys are all risking 1% per trade, which is $100 USD. Then they are also doing the proper math to enter the trade, meaning that they're actually using the calculation that I laid out in previous videos. The risk amount divided by the stop loss amount would give you the total notional size in Bitcoin to enter that trade. Then they would all have the same Bitcoin amount, okay? So the question is, who makes the most money if these all play out? Would this guy over here with the 75 times leverage make the most money? Or would they all make the same amount of money? The question would be answered with, they would all make the same amount of money. It wouldn't make a difference. As long as they all took profit at the same level, they would make the same amount of money minus fees, which the exchange would take. And they would also lose the same amount of money. So why does leverage matter in this example? It wouldn't. Okay, it wouldn't. Maybe trader A did not want to put the entire $10,000 on his trading account. Maybe he only had $500 that he wanted to put on there. Mentally, he's using a $10,000 account. But maybe with all the crypto scams going on in today's world and the exchange fallouts, especially with FTX, he decided, you know what? I don't want to put that much in my crypto trading account. I'm just going to put maybe 5% of what I usually put on there just to be on the safe side in case something really bad happens someday and I don't lose all my money. So I'm going to use more leverage to make up for that. Fine. That's perfectly okay. In fact, that's a pretty smart idea. That's what I do. I'm not telling you guys that's what you have to do, right? But it's a safer play. The less money that you have on any kind of crypto exchange, the safer you are financially. This number shouldn't freak anybody out. Now, of course, it will cause limitations, meaning that should you have a $500 stop loss trade like we're showing in this example, which is almost $600 actually, the stop loss, then you may have an issue. Maybe you can't open that trade using such a high leverage, right? It might not be possible because the liquidation level may be closer than what you're allowed to use for a stop loss. Maybe your liquidation is $450, but the stop loss that you wanted to use was $600. So that's not going to work, okay? That's not going to work. So let's actually do the math here and see how this would play out. But before that, I'm going to play a little scenario out. We're going to move this up here. We're going to move that up to the top here. And what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, let's say that market structure or the price flow was actually pulling bearishly into that level, but we decided to enter anyways. This guy decided to enter. This guy decided to enter. Same idea. We got tagged in that limit order here. And then trader C got tagged in the limit order as well. Everything's working out just fine and dandy. And then all of a sudden, price comes down, takes him out, and takes him out. Did this guy lose more money? Did this guy lose more money on the middle trader B here, or did trader C lose more money? Right? They all lost $100. You have to make sure you realize that, right? There's such a misconception out there. I cannot stress that enough. They would all lose $100. Let's just double check the math to make sure. So with trader A, we have a point. Now we'll just double check this to make sure that notional size is correct, right? So we'll do the risk amount, which is $100 on his $10,000 account, which is 1%, divide it by his stop loss, which is $633.80. That's actually not the same, which is why we always double check. So this would be the correct position size amount, right? That's how much trader A would use. Okay, let's check for trader B. Same idea. Well, the numbers are going to be the same. Same account size, same risk. The numbers are going to be the same. So if losing the trade means minus $100, it's always going to be minus $100, right? So leverage is completely irrelevant. Cannot stress that enough. It's a completely irrelevant number. Now, it's going to be relevant in a sense where, again, if you're trying to open a trade, like let's say, let's go to Bitcoin right now, and let's go back and see, for fun, if we can find ourselves an example where leverage would actually matter. So we're going to go to the 2-minute time frame. We're going to be a little bit extreme here, to say the least. We're going to pick a very, very tiny little order block with imbalance here, okay, which you'll learn about as the lesson progresses. And this order block has a very tight stop loss, a $61.40 stop loss, but we think that's going to work for whatever reason. Okay, so let's say we had a $10,000 trading account. Now we'll go to $100,000. Let's say we have a $100,000 trading account. We want to risk 1%, which is $1,000. Okay, let's see if we can open that trade. All right, so $1,000 risk divided by that stop loss, which is $61.40. So we're going to need 16.286 BTC long. So can I use 25 times? Can I use 5 times? Like, how do I know what to use, right? This is where the calculation comes into play. You will have to check for every position to make sure it's going to work. Now, obviously, the exchange is going to tell you if you do not have enough money to open that position size. It just won't let you open it without changing the leverage slider. The adjuster will have to be changed to accommodate the trade, obviously. So in this case here, I will actually multiply this figure. I'm going to round it, obviously. We're going to multiply this figure by the entry price of 27398.80. To open this trade on a $100,000 account, we would need to use 5 times leverage. That would employ the use of most of that $100,000 on that one trade, okay? Which is risky. Okay, this is a situation where it would be risky. And why is that risky? Well, it's risky because in the event that price comes down and tags us in the trade, pulls up a little bit, and then you get a scam wick down, your stop loss may not trigger here because you have so many Bitcoin in a trade. It may trigger at your liquidation level, and you may lose more than the $1,000. So let's say 80,000 of that 100,000 was actually placed on that trade with 5 times leverage. Uh-oh. There goes your 80 grand. You only meant to risk 1,000, but you just lost basically your whole account. So how can you prevent that? Well, that's where you would use more leverage so that more of your capital is not at risk. So in that case, wouldn't it be wiser to do the same calculation, but instead of using an insane leverage, like 4 or 5 times leverage where you're putting all your capital at play, why don't you use 50 times leverage, right? If you're using 50 times leverage on a $446,216.85 position, what would that mean? It means you're only putting less than $9,000 at risk. So if you got a scam wick that occurred, at least you're only losing less than 10% of your account balance. Now, hopefully that doesn't come to that, right? But using more leverage for a tighter stop loss trade is definitely more ideal, okay? It doesn't make you more money, okay? It has nothing to do with the overall position size. It's the position size that makes you the money, right? It's nothing to do with leverage. The leverage is a way that you do not have to risk these crazy moves where you do not get taken out for the entire account balance in one shebang kind of wick or some one kind of candle like that, right? Think about all the people that would have shorted perhaps this high with a tight stop loss. I bet you there was many. And unfortunately, maybe some of them, right, intended to get stopped out here with a $30 stop loss. Do you really think that candle had any intent of stopping them out there? Probably not, right? Probably not. It's a 2-minute candle. If we went to the 1-minute time frame, let's take a look at that candle. Wow. It had no stopping points until up here, right? So more than likely, those guys didn't get triggered until way up here, which could have caused liquidations, massive losses, more than intended losses. So that's why leverage is important to understand, right? You have to be calculating this kind of thing. You have to consider these scam wicks. You have to consider that it doesn't make you more money per se. It's not the leverage that's making you more. It's not losing you more. Okay. Sure, you can have a more meaningful screenshot in terms of percent gains by upping the leverage in a trade. If you want to make yourself look fancier when bragging on Discord, for example, you can boast that you have, say, 1,000% gain, but who are you really fooling here, right? That's the real question. Is there a point in doing such a thing? I mean, that's up to you guys to do. If you want to do that, by all means. Personally, I don't really care for that. Generally, I set my account anywhere between 20 and 40 times leverage. If my stop loss happens to be less than, say, $30 on a trade, yes, I do up it dramatically. So I'm not putting capital at play, or at risk rather, when I shouldn't have to. But that's a very, very key concept to understand. Leverage is important to understand, and the myths behind leverage, because I see them in an everyday post or two where people just don't quite understand the leverage. The first thing is like, hey, wait, Phoenix, what leverage are you using here? What leverage should I use? Leverage. But it doesn't matter. As long as you understand everything I just mentioned, you should be able to make your own decisions on leverage and adjust it accordingly, right? We just have to make sure we clarify leverage in this course so that this is not one of those things that plays on your mind going forward. It's not something you should be stressed out about. It's the very last thing you should be worrying about is leverage.